Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel Oracle DBA Online Training. So in this session, we will be looking at Oracle Goldengate Microservices Architecture. As we have started Goldengate journey in our previous tutorials, we have seen about Oracle Goldengate Classic Architecture, even though we have learned about Oracle Goldengate Classic Architecture installation, bidirectional or unidirectional replications. So going forward, we are looking at today's session, we are looking at microservices architecture. So we will be covering this topic. And before I'll begin further, I'll request all the new friends to please subscribe my YouTube channel, Oracle DBA Online Training. So if you go to YouTube and you'll search for Oracle DBA Online Training, you'll find out our channel on the top list. So here you can basically enroll our membership program also by clicking on the join buttons, and there are so many things you can basically connect with me on various social media. And apart from this, if you want any personal training or any personal assistant about Oracle database, please contact me on this given contact details. Also, you can send me an emails on this email ID presented here. So far we have covered different topics, and if you want, you can explore the different playlists that we have. Okay. Even though you can look at the RAG tutorials, Goldengate tutorials, data guard tutorials, and performance tuning related stuffs, and database upgrade tutorial, patching. So every different topics that we have covered so far. Okay. And so that's, I mean, from the topics you can learn from our YouTube challenge. So without wasting much time, let's come back to our original today's agenda, that is Oracle Goldengate Microservices Architecture. So first we'll try to understand this, and later in upcoming videos we'll be looking at how you can perform the installation and other stuff. Okay. So before we start, I mean, we'll first try to understand what is Goldengate and how it is used, and what is the purpose of Goldengate. So like we have earlier also discussed these things, like what is a Goldengate and what is the use of it. So Goldengate basically works on the principle of committed data transaction replication. Okay, that means this is a software that you can use to replicate the data, and even though you can perform the filtering of the data and transfer the data from one database to another database. So for example, if you take let's say we have one database, that's one data center, and we have another database running on some remote location on different data centers, and we want to perform a replication between them. So there is various utilities that you can use, but Goldengate is one of the finest and most useful, you can say, product that can be used for the data replication. Okay, so it works on the principle of committed transaction. That means any data which is committed on the primary setups, and based upon the mapping of the tables, those data will be basically getting replicated on the target setup. Okay, so this is a Goldengate product, and why do you need to use the Oracle Goldengate? So this is the next question that will come into our mind when we're dealing with the Oracle Goldengate. Okay. So enterprise data can be distributed across multiple heterogeneous locations, or even though multiple heterogeneous databases. So we can basically avoid the downtime by, I mean, setting the replication between the two different databases, or you can say Goldengate by running the Goldengate in between. So it will act as an interface, and the Goldengate can be used to perform the replication. This is not something about the microservices architecture that we are going to discuss, but just a basic information about the Goldengate, so that you will better in position to understand Goldengate things. Okay. So next part is, when do you use the Oracle Goldengate? So Oracle Goldengate can be used for like any kind of data movement requirements that we have in real production environments. Okay, so we can use it for multiple different data movement purpose. And how to use the Oracle Goldengate? So this is the next question that should be in our mind. So let's so after the installation of Oracle Goldengate, you can basically perform the configuration, and you can basically start using the Goldengate product. Okay, so this is some basic information about Goldengate. So let's move to the next part, like Goldengate key features. So if you look at, so the main purpose of Goldengate is something data movement from one source database to another source data, target database, and it basically works on the committed transactions, and it enables the consistency and improve the performance. That is another things, and so basically we have two different types of architecture, like I told you, like there are two different types of architecture. One is classic architecture, another one is a microservices architectures. So today we are going to cover up microservices architecture. So let's move to the next part, like how the microservices architecture looks like. Okay, so if you look at this diagram, so we have two separate database servers. Let's say we are running one source database setup, and we have another target database setups. Okay, so what you are going to do, you'll be performing this Goldengate microservices architecture software on the, let's say, on the source and target. And once you do the installation as a microservice architecture, so you'll get either you can use the admin client utility that we are going to discuss later also in this tutorial. And so on the source setup, the data will be basically getting extracted, and then it will be written into the trail file. This is something very similar to your classic architectures. The working is a little bit different, and but the main concept behind the Goldengate replication, it is still the same in compared to your classic architectures. Okay, the data extraction is happening and it is getting written to the tail file. The only part that we are, it is different. It is the interface, or the way we are going to handle the replication. Okay, so we have like on the source setup, we'll find out service manager, and then we have the receiver servers, distribution servers, performance metric servers, and administration server. So these are the 5 main component of your microservices architecture, and this will be applicable on both source and target setups. And using the REST API, that is a representational state transfer for any like you can say product to use this REST API. So Goldengate microservices works upon the principle of REST API, that you can use either using the secure or non-secure, like HTTP or HTTPS RESTful service interface. Okay, so I'm going to show you how like Goldengate microservices architectures looks like while really accessing this Goldengate interface. Okay, so from the web browser we are going to use it, and you will come to know like how exactly this works. Okay, so using the REST API that we can use, and so this is our source setup, and this one is a target. So you can manage both of them using the REST API, and yeah, so these services will be remain on both source and target setup. So I hope you understood this part. And if you look at this diagram, we again have the service manager, receiver manager, distribution servers, performance metric, and administration server. Okay, so on the target setup, we will find out the local trail, which is the data coming from the source side. Okay, this will be written into the trail file here, which is again for this setup, it will be a remote trail, but it is a local to the system. Okay, and from here replicate process will be basically performing the data changes on the target setup. So the main theory behind the Goldengate replication will remain the same that we have used in the classic architecture. Okay, so let's move to the next part, like what are the different features that it supports. So we have like thin and browser based client. Okay, so when we say thin and browser based client, so I'll just show an example also. Like we have one setup in my system which is already running. I'm going to perform the installation in the next session. Just wait for our upcoming videos, and you'll come to know. So we have already installed this software, and using, if you look at this IP address, so I use like HTTP and 192.168. This is the server IP and the port type. Okay, once you are, log in on this, you need to basically put the username and password. Okay, so this is the microservices architecture interface you can see. So you will find out there is one service manager which is already running state, and with respect to this service manager, you will find out different services: administration server or distribution server, performance metric server, and receiver server. Okay, so same thing is mentioned over here. Like we can use access the Goldengate microservices using the thin and browser based client. And also we can basically perform the network security. So if you are using the HTTPS based connection for managing the Goldengate microservices architecture, so that makes a network security using the HTTPS secure connection. Okay. And then next part is user authorization. So whenever we are going to configure, so it requires the user authentication. So that also we can manage through the microservices architectures. Okay, then distributed deployments. So if you look at this diagram, not diagram, you can say, this interface. So we have like deployments already running. So when you perform the Goldengate microservice installation, you need to basically perform the deployment also. Okay, so we need to perform the deployment. So we can mention any deployment names during the time of deployment. So here you can see deployment one is there, which is already like all the associated services are up and running. So this way we can create multiple deployments, and it can be coming from any source database servers. Okay, for any source database servers, we can create multiple distributed deployments and remote administration. So if you look at this, we are just using the web browser to manage them all the Goldengate services. Okay, you can perform the stop, start, and there are various options you will find out in this interface. Okay, that means it will help you to perform it. You can manage the Goldengate services remotely. Again, we have the performance monitoring and orchestration. That's a word. Okay, so a performance monitoring and this one orchestration and coordination with other system and services in an Oracle database environment. So if you look at this diagram again, we have various services, and they will be basically communicating with each other about the status and process state. Okay, and apart from this, we have the custom embedded for Oracle Goldengate into application to use the secure or remote HTML application. So even though you can use the Goldengate microservices for like using encoding with any applications for the secure access. Okay, so this way also we can this is the use case of like where the microservices architectures are getting used. Okay, and the main concept behind Oracle microservices is basically it is based upon the RESTful application API. So everything we can see in the form of representational way or using the web browser access. Okay. So let's move to the next part, that is a component of Oracle Goldengate. So we have total 5 main components. So if you look at this diagram, you will find out service manager is there, administration server, performance metric server, distribution server, and the receiver server. So these are the main 5 components for any Goldengate microservices. And Oracle Goldengate microservices provide you all the tools required for like configuring the monitoring, administration, deployment, and security. So everything you can perform using the microservices architectures. That these things we are going to cover during the time of practical sessions in upcoming days. Okay, so you can basically use the Goldengate microservices architectures, and you can either use the command line interface using the admin client option also, or you can use a web browser access also. Okay. So let's move to the next part. Like we'll try to understand functionality of each service. Okay, so first we have the service manager. If you look back this diagram, so we have the service manager, administration manager servers, performance server, metric server, distribution. So we need to understand all the functionality of these servers. Okay. So first one is what is a service manager? So service manager is something which is like a watchdog for all the other services available in the microservice architecture. So it will keep monitoring the other services, which is part of microservice architecture. Okay. So moving to the next part, that is what is the administration server? So administration server, I mean, it is like a superior, or you can say administrator, administer or manager, or and monitor the process within the Oracle Goldengate deployment. So if you look at this deployment page over here, so if you have any deployments, so you can basically perform the deployments using the so once your deployment is already done, so the main process that is going to be used, that is the administration server. Okay, so if you click on this link, you'll find out it is, sorry, it is not opening as of now, but okay, let me. So these are currently stop state. We need to start it so that we can use it. Okay, so once you start it, all the services get started. So we can basically log into each one of these servers. Okay, let me just connect here. So for every process, you need to log in. So once you log in, you'll find out that there is a extract, replicate. So administration server is very important in terms of like handling every task related to Goldengate microservices. So that's why it is called the superior or administrator manage, which manages and monitor the process within the Oracle Goldengate deployment. Next one is a receiver server. So receiver server is something like it will be on the target setup, which will be received as a receiver end. Okay, so if you look at classic architecture, okay. So in classic architecture, basically the data which was collected at the target setup, that was handled by the receiver server in the microservices architecture. So it is basically, its job is to capture all the incoming trails files. Okay. So it interoperates with the distribution server. So if you look at this diagram again, so here the data which is coming from the source, this is a source setup. Okay, so this is the distribution server. It will send the data, and then the receiving end, receiver server will receive the data. Okay, so we have various different ways of handling the microservices. Either you can use admin client or the browser, even though from the OEM also you can handle, and in PL SQL, or using the scripts, or using the microservices architecture interfaces. So there is very different ways you can access the Goldengate services. Okay, so these two services are done. This one is also done. Let's move to the next part, that is a distribution server. Okay, so distribution server is like its job is to send data over the network to the receiver server, which is running on the target setup. So it will collect the data from the tail, and it will send it to the receiver server. Next one is a performance metric. So a performance metric is something, it is used to monitor the performance of the overall Goldengate services. Okay, if you want, I can show you on this how it looks like. So if you click on this performance metrics, so once you log into the performance metric, you'll find out there are various monitorings given over here. You can basically monitor all of these services also by clicking on them. Okay, so it provides you the graphical way represented interface, where you can look at the various performance things, like what is total page fault, memory utilization, CPU utilization. So overall picture you can get it from the performance metric. Okay, next one is a admin client. So admin client is basically a utility that you can use, like in normal classic architecture we used GGSI utility. So similar way you can use the admin client also in this case. So during the time of our installation, we'll look at this part again. So don't worry about it. Just for time being, you can think it about like it is similar to something GGSI utility that we used for managing the classic architecture. Okay. Next one is a roadmap for implementing the microservices architecture. So a roadmap related to Goldengate microservices architecture is something. So once you do the installation, after that you need to perform the deployment. Okay, so once the deployment is done, then you can basically perform extract creation, replication, replicate creation, and the distribution path creation. So distribution path is something the path between the distribution server and the receiver server that get created during the time of configuration. Okay, so here is a flow diagram. Basically, the source data is collected by the extract process running on the as a Goldengate part of the Goldengate process. Then it will write the data in the local tail file. From here, distribution server will keep, it will read the data from the tail files, and it will pass it to over the network to the receiver server on the receiving end, and it will write the data in the tail file. Then replicate will read the data, and it will perform the replication on the target setup. So this is the premises one, this is the second one. So this is how the data flows. Okay. So in upcoming sessions, we will be looking at more detail about this, how we can perform the installation of microservices, and then how we can handle these things. Okay. So let's have a quick comparison between admin client and GGSI. So if you compare this GGSI with admin client, so you can basically connect to the using the GGSI, you can connect to the local processes. So in case of microservices, using the admin client, you can connect to the microservices architecture deployment. So here we are trying to connect as a connector to the local processes, and here we are connecting to the deployment. Okay, so next is it will require the local machine access, typically using the SSH, and it requires either HTTP or HTTPS if you are using a secure deployment. And next, it basically perform application logic executed locally. Here we can execute it remotely, and it requires a connection to the database. It does not require any connection to the database. Okay. Next one is use the operating system security, and it uses the MS security. Microservices architecture has its own security that we can use. Next one is authenticated and authorized ones. Here the authorization and authentication happen for every operations, and GGSI basically does not no special connect semantics are required. So here it requires the connect strings. Whenever you want to connect to the admin client, you have to perform a connection using the connect command. Okay. Next one is a GGSI. So GGSI basically it requires user ID, password, or you can use the user alias also, user ID alias. Okay. So, but in case of admin client, it always require a user ID alias only option. And next one is a register extract before you add extract. So here the registration is required, but here registration of the extract after that add extract. So the commands are reversed. So you first do the add extract, then you perform the register. Okay, and here we have the non-secure communication. It is encrypted communication using the SSL. So it provides the extra layer of security in case of admin client. But in case of GGSI, it does not provide any security. It uses the pump process. It uses the distribution server. So this is the overall comparison between the GGSI and admin client. I hope you have understood about how like microservices architecture is, and at last we have understood to the admin client how it is different from the GGSI. So during the practical sessions in upcoming videos, I'm going to share about how you can perform like installation of microservices and even though how you can perform the deployments and then replication of data between source and target. So okay, so I hope you have understood everything from this, and I will stop here. Okay, thanks for watching our videos. Please subscribe our YouTube channels. If you're new on my YouTube channel, please subscribe and support. And even though you can enroll our membership programs, and if you want any kind of trainings or assistant, please contact me on the given contact details. Thanks again, and have a good day.